Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about Real Madrid, how to keep their save realistic and who you can sign to strengthen the weak areas of the Real Madrid squad. Of course, Real Madrid, they start off with a massive budget, so it can be hard to keep it realistic. You know, you can go all out, you can sign Mbappe and Haaland, and honestly, I really do recommend you sign one of them because I think that would make the career mode really fun. But I'm going to be telling you some more realistic and probably more likely to happen in real life career mode transfers that you can do to keep your save fun, while also having a good team that you can compete at the right level in the entirety of your career mode with. So let's get started straight away. Goalkeeping is a big part of their squad. They've always had good goalkeepers, whether it was Iker Casillas or more recently Thibaut Courtois, and he is absolutely ready to be goalkeeper for you for at least 5-6 seasons. He's only 29 years old, 89 overall with 91 potential, so he's not going to be going anywhere. His backup, Lunin, has a 74 overall and 85 potential again, so he's more than good enough to be a backup. And Luis Lopez again, 63 overall, 76 potential. He's going to be a good third choice. He's not going to complain about game time because he's got Courtois and Lunin above him. And more likely than that, you're going to get a good youth academy goalkeeper coming through within the first couple of seasons anyway. Moving over to left back, and you have one of the most famous FIFA left backs on the game, Ferland Mendy. He's got 83 overall to start off with, but he can get up to an 86, which would make him probably the second best left back in the entire game. He's got really good FIFA stats, which is why he's so used in Ultimate Team. His backups are Nacho Fernandez, Marcelo, who of course is getting a little bit old and is probably past it, and then the youngster Miguel, who starts off only 66 but can get to the low 80s in his potential at a push. Alaba can also cover at left back, and technically he's your highest rated left back, but I really do recommend you just using him at centre back instead. Same with Nacho Fernandez, who's better at centre back. Over on the right, you've got Carvajal, who's an 85. Nacho Fernandez again can cover here, as can Lucas Vazquez, with youngster Marvin being your fourth choice. So left and right back, I don't think you really do need to strengthen. You've always got a first choice. You've got Mr. Versatile himself, Nacho Fernandez, who can cover all along the back line, so again, don't really need to strengthen your defence. And then at centre-back, you've got Eder Militao and Vallejo, who, even though Militao might not be the best now, he has really good potential, and Vallejo is not actually that bad either, with his potential being in the low 80s. So really in defence, there's only one signing I would recommend you do, and that's another centre-back. Because although Alaba is good, he's 29, and although Eder Militao is young at 23 with 89 potential, you don't really have another choice once Alaba starts deteriorating. So I'm going to suggest a backup / starting centre-back at the end of this video. If you do want to do something like 3 at the back or 5 at the back, you might want to use wing-backs. However, their squad isn't actually set up for either of this, with not a single player in the Real Madrid squad being able to play at either wing-back position. So it's one to avoid unless you want to make some expensive signings in these positions. At defensive midfielder, Casemiro is the big signing. You know, he's an 89 overall. He's a bit of a solid rock in midfield, but he is 29 years old. Because Casemiro is not already blessed with pace, he is going to deteriorate pretty fast. He's already at his peak, and his backup Camavinga is got potential to be just as good as Casemiro is now. Celebos has a little bit more potential as well. He can get from 77 up to an 80, but it's nowhere near the 90 potential that Camavinga will probably get to by the time he maxes out his stats. So really, Casemiro is going to be your first choice for the first couple of seasons, with Camavinga getting as many minutes in his legs as you possibly can. I think Camavinga is more of a central midfielder long term, so you might want to try and invest in either a central defensive midfielder or another central midfielder, who we're going to be looking at now. Toni Cruz and Luka Modric, of course, are absolute stars. They have been for years and years, but because of their age, they're not going to be stars for that much longer. Valverde has really high potential, 89 potential, the same as Camavinga, so that could easily be your 2 in central midfield for the next 10-15 years. Isco is also still at Real Madrid, 82 overall. He can play central midfielder, although of course he is better at central attacking midfielder. So it might be something you look into there if you want to get another backup central midfielder, or someone who can sort of push Camavinga and Valverde so one of them can drop down into central defensive midfielder. I'm going to recommend 2 midfield players at the end of this video. Left and right midfield is not an area that Real Madrid is actually blessed with. All their good players are wingers instead of midfielders. So on the left, you've got Arribas, who's got 65 overall as your only left midfield player. On the right, you've got Gareth Bale and Lucas Vazquez, who are already at their potentials. They're not going to get any better, and really they're not great for a Real Madrid standard squad. Of course, Gareth Bale had a pretty unsuccessful spell at Tottenham last season, and he is only an 82 overall. He's got a couple of years left on his contract, so he is going to be expensive and might be one for you to ship out. I don't think you should really sign a left or right midfielder. If you do want to use them in your formation, just retrain one of your left wingers or right wingers, because you have really good players in those positions. On the left wing, you have Eden Hazard, of course, big signing from Chelsea a couple of seasons ago, and Marco Asensio, who has potential to be better than Hazard. Isco can also cover on the left wing, but the real star of the show is Vinicius Jr. He only starts out as an 80, but he has the highest potential in the entire squad except for Thibaut Courtois. With a 90 potential, Vinicius Jr is going to be an absolute star. He's got the potential to be the same level as someone like Sadio Mane, who we all know how good he is in real life. On the right hand side, you have Marco Asensio again, Gareth Bale again, Lucas Vazquez again, but then you have another Brazilian winger in Ruediger, who starts out slightly worse than Vinicius and has slightly less potential, but still going to be absolute world class if he does hit that 88 potential he starts off with. Central attacking midfield and the centre forward position are not really that great for Real Madrid. You've got Isco again and Arribas and Nakai, but none of them are going to really be that good. Centre forward, you've got Benzema, who of course is probably one of the best centre forwards on the entire game, but you're going to probably prefer to use him as a striker. As striker, we've got Luka Jovic as well, you've got Mariano, who doesn't really have potential to get much better than he is, and Luis Carbonell, who actually could get pretty good, although he starts off at 63 overall. Out on loan, you do have Kubo and Renier, who both have potential to be world class as well. Kubo has high 80s potential, while Renier is just mid 80s. It's definitely two players you should keep in mind when making your transfers. So let's have a look at some of the areas we can strengthen for Real Madrid. So centre back is a position I did say I'd suggest someone for. Personally, if I was Real Madrid or managing them on FIFA, I would go for Ruediger at Chelsea. He's not renewing his contract, he's stalling and trying to get a free deal with a big signing on fee, and he would be a really good cheap backup or starting option if you can get him next summer. He's not really needed, but can you really pass up on the opportunity to get such a good player for such a low price? Because although he is in his late 20s, he has actually got potential to get even better than he already is. He's really effective on FIFA as well, with really high sprint speed, really high strength, and really good aggression. So he's going to be an absolute rock at the back. I think the signing would be similar to the one they did with Alaba, where they needed a centre-back, so they just got the best one they could on a free from, obviously, that one was from Bayern Munich, this one's from Chelsea, but very similar in terms of the deal. Central midfielder-wise, there's actually two players that I think you should sign, and I'm going to suggest three that can replace them. So to replace Cruz, Modric and Casemiro, I definitely think Camavinga has the potential to replace one of them, and Valverde probably can replace another one. So you've got maybe one or two slots depending on how much depth you want. So I think you should sign at least one of Bellingham, Barella, Tielemans or Pogba. So these four all have different skills. Of course, Pogba is more of a wide playmaker who would drift out into the half spaces. Barella and Bellingham are both more box-to-box, so getting up and down the field, similar to how Valverde can play, and then you'd have to have someone like Camavinga playing as the defensive midfielder. Or you've got Tielemans, who's a bit more of a sort of average midfielder who just sort of sits in midfield. He can ping passes, he can ping long shots, so he gives you a bit more threat from midfield than the others probably would. All in all, it depends how you want to play with Real Madrid and what kind of style of play you're going to bring in. If you're more of a Mourinho, you probably want to go for the more defensive-minded ones, so Barella or Tielemans. If you're more of an attacking gung-ho manager, then you might want to go for Pogba to play alongside Valverde, and then, of course, Camavinga. So, last position that you could possibly strengthen is up front. You're Real Madrid, of course, you need a Galactico, so you could possibly, of course, sign one of Mbappe and Haaland. In real life, they've been heavily linked with Mbappe, not so much Haaland, but I think Haaland would probably fit in better on FIFA. But Mbappe to Real Madrid is just one of those transfers that you've seen coming for 5 years and you're not going to be surprised when it happens. Sort of a bit like Sancho to Manchester United. You just know it was going to happen. It took a year or two of just everyone talking about it and then eventually it did. I can see something happening similar to this with Mbappe going to Real Madrid. Of course, he's only got 1 year left on his contract, so you're probably going to be able to pick him up quite cheap for the value that he is. I feel it's quite cheap in this situation. It's probably going to be like £200 million, but I still think he's probably worth it because he'll be your starting striker for at least 10 years in FIFA, which is an absolute bargain. It works out as about £20 million a year, which is definitely worth for an Mbappe. If you're a Real Madrid fan or you've done a career mode with them already, please do drop down in the comments any players that you've signed who have been good for you or any suggestions that you recommend for a career mode with Real Madrid. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Check out any of the links that I've got at the end of the video if you want to watch more content, and give it a like if you enjoyed the video. Thank you all for watching, subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this, and I'll see you very soon for probably another team league guide, tips, challenges, anything FIFA 22 on the Geography FIFA channel. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Cheers.